Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage and... Ah yes, sure, I get it.
What?
Here, this one's for you, Buddymeister.
Oh, thank you, Jimmy! Jimmy, what?
Oh wow! Thank you, Buddymeister.
You're welcome.
Prema. Prema.
Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage.
And I'm Deniz, the Buddymeister, and today is a special day.
Oh yes, today is the birthday of the one and only Upendra.
Exactly, so we thought it's a good idea to review another one of his films.
He acted in 54 films, wrote 16 films but directed only 10. I already reviewed Upendra from 1999, and together we did A, which came out 1 year before that. Now it's really not easy to get a hold of the man's movies, but luckily we found a copy of Om. Actually one of his greatest successes in terms of box office and re-releases. Om was released more than 550 times.
A formidable achievement. Om was released in 1995. It's a Kannada crime drama starring Shivarajkumar and Prema in the leading roles. Shivarajkumar plays Satya, the son of a priest and a quiet and modest student who turns into a violent hacking and slaying gangster at the behest of his love interest Madhuri. But that same Madhuri tries to transform him back into a civilized person later. I guess you have to see Om to really understand the twists and turns that shape this love story.
It's actually not that easy to follow the back and forth between Satya and Madhuri, because the way Upendra chose to tell the story, the way he arranged it, makes it quite a complicated mess. Now, that's most likely done on purpose, because Upendra loves to tell his stories in a convoluted and artistically minded way. But it takes some time to see through this web of obsession.
The love story is also embedded in a larger story about Bangalore's criminal underworld, which contributes to this slightly messy narrative. We actually start things off with the character Shashi, a journalist who investigates underworld dons and wants to find out why people become gangsters.
But we actually start things off with a gritty, raw and violent sequence that provides an insight into the criminal underworld as we follow rivaling gangs that steal oil, hunt each other down and fire all over the place. Very reminiscent of Anurag Kashyap's style, which of course wasn't existent at that time.
Soon after that we get to know the lovely Madhuri and this crazy maniac Satya, who's so obsessed with her that well, for one, he makes sure that no other guy gets near her. His goons beat everybody up, which makes for a few really funny scenes. But he also wants her to wear saris instead of skirts. He burns her clothes. He strong-arms her for loving him. He's the villain of the story, or isn't he, Jimmy?
Of course he's a villain, but Upendra tries to put it in a different light. And he does so by giving us an explanation for why Satya became like this.
And that's what's interesting about this movie and something that took a while for me to process. Upendra establishes this whole how did these dons become gangsters plot in a way that makes us think of the generic reasons, like they probably were poor, maybe they needed money, they broke bad because they got to know the wrong people, etc. And then we learn how Satya became a criminal, and that story kind of turns every one of these generic reasons on its head. So in a way it's a pretty sophisticated narrative.
That's interesting, I haven't thought about it that way, but it makes total sense and it's typical for Upendra to put a certain spin on things. And in this case it is how love, obsession and incomprehension can change somebody. This is going to be a rather spoiler heavy review, so if you haven't seen Om yet, you should probably do that first, although I would say that the movie still works pretty well if you know about its inner workings. It's not a sixth sense or anything.
And it's also not as eccentric or wacky as Upendra's later films, I guess.
Absolutely, it feels a little bit like he's still trying to find his voice, but there definitely is some weirdly great stuff in there, like over-the-top slow motion, strange sounds and interesting camera angles. But let me pick up on what I said about love, obsession and incomprehension. After Satya is established as this lunatic villain, which actually got a little bit repetitive with time, we learn that Madhuri kind of created him.
Yeah, it's a great little twist and also an interesting choice. It immediately puts Satya in another light, but Upendra goes even one step further. He actually made me really dislike Madhuri, the person that I pitied so much just a few minutes earlier. Well, and then he twists the facts again by giving us reasons for her actions.
Like I said, it's quite convoluted. There are flashbacks, then there's a short flashback inside a flashback, and of course, the tone of the movie changes quickly. It's not easy to follow all this, but it's also not like you're completely lost. And I'm glad that the whole gangster plot gets picked up again towards the end. For a minute there, I was afraid it wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta applaud Upendras' craziness. To tell such a story in this way, it's pretty striking. And apparently he worked with real-life gangsters. I guess that is the ones that Shashi's talking to.
Probably. Om put this kind of genre, this criminal underworld gangster drama, on the map. It's not like these movies were common back then. It's quite violent and raw, and hell, you're almost losing track of all the people who are beating and killing each other. It can be pretty excessive.
Om can be too much, to be honest, and it's definitely too long with its 150 minutes. And you already mentioned that it has some repetitive periods. It tends to be quite exhaustive.
Om crams a lot of things in its 2.5 hours, there's no doubt about that. It can be dreary, because things progress so slowly sometimes, it's like treading water. All this stuff with the different perspectives and perceptions, how Madhuri believes in something that turns out to be wrong, how Satya does the same, and on top of that all the gangster quarrels, it's messy.
It really is, but somehow this is also what makes Om so much fun and what makes it so fascinating. I have to say, since I watched it, it kind of grew on me. And of course there's one song that I can't get out of my head. Wanna guess which one?
Koma, koma, koma.
Prema.
Koma, koma, koma. Prema. Koma, koma, koma. Prema.
What an awesome song, what a catchy tune, great work by composer Hamzeleka. It almost immediately burned itself in my brain and I've been singing it day in, day out since then. It's the highlight of Om. The same is true for the sequence in which it's used.
That's where Satya is caught off guard by Madhuri and he falls into this love coma. Shivarajkumar must have had a lot of fun as Satya. He does a good job as this peace-loving man turned demented criminal.
Yeah, I wanted to add something regarding the flashback. I think it is also the best part of the film because I was invested the most. I felt like something is on the line, like we are learning something profound about these characters. That's also the case later on, but it just doesn't feel that vital anymore because things are repeating itself.
It's a good point. The story just wears itself out towards the end. It's not like you lose interest, but you're exhausted.
But you also can't help it but give Upendra the benefit of the doubt. I mean, that ending with the gangsters who renounce violence and crime, it is kind of stupid, but it also shows that he wears his heart on his sleeve and that he's really trying to get a message across here. And more than once I thought I was out of the movie.
But he pulled you back in.
Exactly. So, what would we say in German about Om?
Om mag vielleicht nicht auf demselben Level sein wie Upendras spätere Filme, dafür ist er etwas zu unausgegoren und in die Länge gezogen. Aber wie hier mit Drehungen und Wendungen eine blutige Gangster-Liebesgeschichte erzählt wird, ist dennoch absolut sehenswert.
I give Om 7 out of 10. It's more like 6.7, but I don't do that.
For me, it's also 7 out of 10. It's more like 6.9, but I don't do that either. Have you ever heard of the conch or the conch shell horn?
No?
It's a natural trumpet made out of a snail shell. It's an inherent part of Hindu rituals and in Indian mythology, its sound, which resembles the sound syllable Om, is connected to the creation of the world.
Very interesting. Thanks, buddy. So, what are your thoughts about Om? Leave a comment and hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd and also on Patreon simply at the Jimmy Cage.
And you can hit me up on Twitter at the Buddymeister.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And make sure you hit that bell for all we have to tell.